Can you get into the charges at all against him?
Charges are what was announced in court today. The investigation does continue. Very limited in details that I can share at this juncture from a strategic standpoint, as well as a court order that was filed by my office to impound some of the details around the case at this point.
Can we just get your reaction to this case and how it unfolded? I don't think we've been able to talk to you since this happened, but the Amber Alert that went out and how quick this all came together to have this arrest today.
Yeah, first and foremost, our thoughts and our concern is with the victim and her family, and we in law enforcement are going to do our best to make sure that they understand the process and we communicate with them. But really, the system worked, and the Amber Alert in particular was incredibly important to making sure that the victim was found when she was, as quickly as I think possible. So we're very appreciative towards the civilians who were aware of the Amber Alert system, paid attention, and kept an eye out. And there was, at least one individual who really was heroic and important in this process of apprehending the individual and most importantly, bringing our victim into safe hands.
How is our victim doing today? Was she harmed in any way at all?
At this point, I'm not going to speak to that. We are focused right now in the early investigation, the early court process, and making sure this individual is held for the foreseeable future.
Do they know each other? Do they know each other? Is there any relationship? Or
I'm not going to speak to any of those details at this point.
The commissioner said he was evil. There was a huge concern with this. Why was this so concerning?
I'm not going to make those kinds of characterizations at this point. I certainly respect what the commissioner has said. We're working as a team. I want to thank the Springfield Police Department and their incredible efforts, in particular Captain Duda and his team, as well as the Mass State Police. And again, civilians who worked, to get us to this point. As prosecutors, as in law enforcement, our foremost responsibility is the protection of people. And I think certainly children, our vulnerable populations, are so important to us. So this was really an all-hands-on-deck effort yesterday. Again, the Springfield Police Department, the Massachusetts State Police, and civilians really all came together to do our best work to ensure that this young person was made safe again. And, in terms of characterizations about what was involved in this, I'll leave for the court process, but we are focused as an office in ensuring that we work very hard to prosecute this individual to the fullest extent of the law.
There were reports that there were other people in the car. Just wondering.
I'm not going to comment on any details to that effect at this point.
How rare is an outcome like this for a kidnapping case?
Well, fortunately, it is sort of rare, especially given these circumstances. And that's due to law enforcement's efforts, and this is rare, and that's a good thing. But when it happens, law enforcement has responded effectively and in force, and we as an office are going to work very hard to make sure that criminal justice is the goal.
We've seen video of her walking home from school on a different day, on Tuesday, I believe. And then shortly after that, there's a blue vehicle that looks like it's his that follows down the road. Do you think that this was something that he was planning ahead of what happened yesterday?
Bob, I'm sorry, but I can't confirm those kinds of details. There's some information out in the public, and obviously folks can draw their own conclusions. But right now, given that the case is in the system, we're going to focus on putting our case together and prosecuting
But what
it.
a disturbing case this is, if that's what holds up.
Sure.
We learned today, back in 2018, he has some charges for indecent exposure and assault and battery on a child. Do you know the result of that investigation?
I do not.
The judge did bring up that she wanted to look at his competency because of priors. Why is that so important to focus on?
From our standpoint, that's an evaluation that will be done by the court clinic that's outside of my office, and that's a part of this process. Again, our focus right now is assisting our police agencies in putting together a high quality and thorough investigation and prosecuting the case and keeping other people safe.
How important was the public's help?
It was enormous. As I mentioned with respect to the Amber Alert, people were paying attention. I think there was an emotional response given the circumstances and the fact that this was a young girl. And there were a few individuals who made contact with law enforcement to say, I think I saw something. People communicated, people stepped up, people provided tips, and ultimately someone was really instrumental in making sure that law enforcement was able to make contact and, ultimately make the arrest and make sure that our victim is safe.
Are you able to speak to how he got her into the car? Did he talk to her? Did he grab her? Or
Those are details I'm not going to comment on at this point.
what would you say to other parents and other people out there who are following this and are very disturbed that something like this could happen? It appears it's a complete stranger abduction, and she's found 6 hours later, 45 minutes away. We're lucky that this all worked out, but what would you say to parents?
Keep a close eye on your kids. Be very watchful and mindful of what you see and who's around your children. That's not to say that this situation, that anyone has any fault in this. It's an awful tragedy, but always be very careful as to who you see around your children, who's around your neighborhood. If you see something, call police, report it, and make sure you're communicating with your child about what he or she might be seeing. If there's anything that seems abnormal, then address it. But this is very scary, and we understand it, but the person is apprehended, and we're going to work very hard to make sure that he does not see the light of day for a very long time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, really appreciate it.